I'm ready.
All right, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Value Vegan podcast. Today we have Ruji here, who is the host of the Vegan Ambition podcast, and we're super excited to hear his story and some of his top tips. So, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on the podcast. Really excited. Um, yeah, my story is that the first question? Hmm.
I'm supposed to ask the question, but go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. Go ahead. No, ask me, please.
So, to start off with, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Okay. So I've been vegan for about 2 years. Before that, the first thing I did was I went pescatarian, and I did that for my health primarily. So I decided that I was just eating like crap, and I was like, you know what? I need to start eating a little bit better. And I knew that for me, it was really hard to like just stop eating, or not to stop eating, to like change my diet. So I just decided to stop eating the things that would like be bad for me, like chicken. And I did that for about a year, and then at one point, I was just eating something, and I was like, I don't need to like be pescatarian anymore. I can just go vegetarian. Fish isn't like that much of a thing for me. I think I was also like learning a lot more about the environmental aspects and learning a lot about just kind of like how much better like vegetarianism is. And so I just decided to do it. And then a few months after that, I went to a sanctuary for the first time, and I met this cow. Her name was Baby. She passed away recently, actually.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it was really sad when she passed away. And I don't know, like growing up in the city of Toronto, and like I never really met farm animals
Mm.
before, and so this was kind of my first experience meeting that like animal. Growing up, I had a dog and so forth, and so I knew, like, I understood how animals live with humans, but I never really thought about the existence of farm animals and how that uh, is like a whole thing of itself. And so I went to the sanctuary that it's called Farmhouse Garden Animal Home. It's like a popular one up in Uxbridge in Ontario, Canada. And so I met this baby cow, and she came up to me, and she like went right up to my camera. I was taking photos of her, and she like looked at my camera and was like kind of like, "What is this? I want a photo." Like she was like so different. She was so much like my puppy that I was extremely surprised and extremely like interested in that. And then later on, the farmer who like owns the sanctuary, or who owns all the animals there, he grabbed an apple from his like apple tree there, and he starts eating it. And none of the other cows, but she comes up to him, and she's like, where's my apple? Excusez-moi. And he, of course, had to give her one because she wouldn't stop. She was raised differently. So like normally cows that are raised for some kind of purpose in the whole world are raised for that purpose. They're not raised like pets. She was raised more of like a pet, and so she was a little different than the other animals. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and then I went vegan, and I've been vegan for 2 years. And I started a podcast about 9 months ago or 10 months ago now.
Mm.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So it kind of took you seeing the cow for, who it really was. Like, because you hadn't been exposed to that before to
Mhm.
like really see that. So do you think more people should be like going to sanctuaries, or like how can we kind of start to develop that empathy?
I think that so like empathy is really hard to develop for people because they don't consider that earthlings, like everything that lives on this animal is, or on this planet, is supposed to live on this planet.
Mm.
And we're so like normal society is so devolved from and so removed from the way that slaughter works and the way that these industries really function, that it's really hard for us to understand um, the fact that we're not supposed to be eating these animals.
Mm.
And also it's such an like a thing for a lot of people. It's such a thing of ease and haste and like these stupid things that we as vegans are like, this is dumb. But for a lot of people, it's really hard because you go to the grocery store and you pick up this packet of meat and you've done it your whole life and you're like, this is normal. And now I go to the grocery store and I'm sure you have the same experience, and you go to the grocery store and you're like, this is not normal.
Yeah. I like can't even look at it. I like avoid that area completely.
Yeah. Every time I like walk past it, I'm just like, all right, I look to the side. I'm like, no, I do not want to deal with that. So I think, I do think like going to a sanctuary, meeting animals is really important and really beneficial to people. And just like understanding that these beings are here to live and we grow them to kill them. And that's just like, it's not cool. Who wants to be grown to be murdered? I don't want to be murdered.
Yeah. And so what you were saying about this one cow not being raised like the others, like tell us a bit more about that and like how cows are normally raised.
Yeah, so normally cows are raised in like groups with other cows, and although like, so you see a lot of these posts on the internet sometimes where it's like dairy farmers or other farmers are like, look how much love I'm giving this animal, I'm feeding it, making sure it's fine. And I'm like, that's great that you're taking care of your animals, because you should be, it's your job. But the fact that these animals are like raised without any love, any like proper love past a couple of days old, is really like horrific. And a lot of these farmers, like they're smaller farms. So smaller farms, they may provide more love for their animal. That's still not necessarily good, because the animal still will die will be killed for meat one day. But most milk, most meat, most eggs, most everything is produced in factory farms, and we know factory farms suck, but it's terrible. Like I watched a video recently of this vegan activist, and he went to visit a farm or a place where they kill cows, halal cows, and one of the cows broke something on its way walking somewhere, something like that happened. And it's lying on the floor, receiving no love, no attention, no care, just before it's killed. And like, that's just, that to me is a very like terrible way of life. I don't want to experience that. And I don't understand, a lot of the time it's hard for me to understand why other people are okay with animals experiencing it when they themselves won't. And so, and so you will find like baby, like she was raised, like she was on this sanctuary, before it was a sanctuary. And and it's possible she was like, she could have been used, like in the future could have been used for meat, or could have been used for milk. And thankfully she wasn't, but she died of different natural causes. But
yeah, that's crazy. Like really, seeing them as individuals instead of like, just meat. So that's awesome.
We're all earthlings. We all deserve to live here, so
yeah, I love that. So tell us a bit about your podcast and how that started, and kind of what you do there.
So the Vegan Ambition is a podcast I started a couple months ago, 9 months ago, 10 months ago, I don't remember. And my goal with the podcast, with starting it, was I noticed that there was a big discourse between vegans and non-vegans. So I noticed that one of the things that was happening on the internet was that you would have vegans bashing non-vegans, and you would have non-vegans bashing vegans. And my approach to people who are non-vegans is that they are on a different journey. And their journey, maybe one point they'll get to veganism. I hope that they will. I don't know. I can't predict the future. But at one point I was like them, right? I was like, I had friends, two of my friends that are vegan. I was friends with them in high school, and they were vegan in high school. And I literally told them I will never go vegan. And everybody has done that. Every vegan has done that, unless you were born with it. You've done that. And it's like, and it's like so funny because it's like I don't think like having a discussion or a discourse that is bad or like mean is helpful to anybody.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that was the main focus of starting my podcast, was to kind of to loosen the discussion around it. And I've had a lot of non-vegan friends on it, and a lot of non-vegans in general on it, as well as vegans. And it's been great. Like sometimes, like, and I'm just trying to show them where I come from and what my options and why I do the things I do. And sometimes they'll think, and I hope that sometimes they'll think about those decisions and whether or not those are the right decisions. And at the same time, I also wanted to create like a platform for people to learn more about veganism, because I found that there wasn't really many at the time.
Yeah. I love that. Same. That's why I started my podcast. But
Yeah.
okay, so on that topic of engaging non-vegans, what do you think are some of the most productive, non overly offensive ways of I guess sharing this message?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think that there's room for offense sometimes.
Mm.
So I actually talked about this in my podcast a couple podcasts ago, and I think for the most part, offense is not good. But sometimes you'll run into people who are just like completely not oblivious, but they're completely devoid of empathy, and they're just like, I don't care. I don't care that I'm wearing a rat on my coat, or that I'm wearing a dog on my coat. What dog do I get next? And that those people, I think those people, they won't get it until they're offended. They won't get it until they really get it.
Mm.
Most people, though, I think one of the best courses of action is to talk about it subtly and to bring it up once in a while, and to encourage people to just try foods that you have. Like I had a bet with my friends, and I lost the bet. And originally I was going to pay them money, $100, whatever. And I'm not like saying betting is good. I'm just, but at some
Make
point,
people go vegan by betting.
yeah, at some point I like convinced them. I was like, okay, what if instead of $100, I'll take you out to a restaurant, a vegan restaurant? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And I'm like, I feel so much better about that, because now I know my money is going towards like a vegan cause, and they'll also eat something that's good, and they'll maybe learn something and try something in the future.
Mhm.
And I've had lots of, I think, I mean, the whole world, the whole country, at least in Canada, Toronto, is like starting to eat more vegan stuff. But like, I think
Yeah.
encouraging that is good. Or I've had friends that are like, they're like, I eat a sandwich every day, and I'm like, cool. Have you tried this like fake meat? How is it? Maybe you put it on your sandwich next time. And these kinds of little things, I think they add up, and they're very helpful. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think that's really fascinating because someone else I just interviewed was talking about how the entire reason he went vegan was because one of his coworkers where he was working would just like casually bring it up and like, share food and stuff like that. And he thought he would never go vegan. And here he is 9 years later, he started his own vegan fashion brand.
yeah.
And I'm like, wow, like the potential. And imagine how awesome that one person must feel who like actually caused that to happen. It's like insane. And it's like these little ripple effects of everyone just kind of being proud of being vegan and just sharing like authentically, the benefits and like why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really cool. So that's
I
awesome.
I really think like the little things add up. And I think just being like nice to people, there's a lot of vegans out there. Like I don't know if you've heard of Joey Carbstrong. Like I find look him up later, but he's an offensive vegan, I guess. Like he's very intense, and he'll like yell at you and be like very like a lot. And then there's other people like James Aspey, who's like very soft spoken. He's very like, listen, like this is how it is, and I wanna see what we can do, how I can help you, and try to change this for you. And I
Mm.
think like that is more beneficial than like just being aggressive, because people react poorly to aggressiveness. Um, as well as the little things. I'm trying to do that at work. Like every time that like I get vegan lunches at work now, and I'm trying to see like how I can encourage people to like eat more vegan, or like see if we can like order vegan cakes on birthdays.
Yeah.
These kinds of little things that will eventually like hopefully tumble out to something bigger.
Nice. I love that. Awesome. So just to wrap up, share with us some of your top tips for new vegans.
Ooh. My biggest recommendation for people who want to go vegan and who are currently not vegan at all, not vegetarian, not pescatarian, nothing like, um, is to take it slow. I think a lot of people, you've seen a lot of people on the internet recently, they're like switching back from veganism, or there's just like I think the people go back from veganism after 3 months,
Mm.
is like very common. And as much as I personally would love to remove all harm in the world, I'm also a realist, and I know that that can happen overnight. And I think that like for people who want to go vegan, you need to set yourself expectations and understand that it might be hard the first couple days. It might be hard the first couple months. Eventually, you'll get the hang of it. I really recommend people to take it slowly and gradually,
Mm.
to like either do it a couple times a week and be like, okay, this is my vegan day, and then try to add on, or to do it kind of like a pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan, like how I did, because I think it's a bit more realistic for people, because it can be a big change, and it can uh, be difficult for you, and it can be difficult for your body, and all these kinds of things. And so I just always think that it's best to take it slow.
Mm.
That's
Nice.
my most important thing.
Nice. Awesome. And what if someone's a vegan and they feel like they have no vegan friends and they just feel really alone? What would you say to this person?
Facebook. I had that. I didn't have that experience, but I was just thinking about like I'm moving back to Toronto soon, and I'm like I don't have a
Mm.
lot of vegan friends from
I'll be
back
your
home.
friend.
Huh?
I said I'll be your friend.
Yes.
You got me one
Well,
person.
so I just posted on Facebook. There's a vegan group, and I
Yeah.
posted on there, and I was like, hey, I'm looking for some more friends. Or I lived in Hong Kong last year, and I just found a Facebook group, and I went to dinners with them, and it was great, and I met lots of people. I think that's like the best, really, like Facebook, like Google your city plus vegan, and just put it on there and just start talking to people. That's the
Mhm.
best way. There's no solution to that. Maybe like going to vegan restaurants a lot. Yeah.
Just show up every day at the vegan cafe.
Yeah. But I mean, I also think like you shouldn't get like upset when you have non-vegan friends.
Mm.
I have a lot of non-vegan friends. My family is non-vegan. Um, and I consistently try to push as much as I can for us to eat more vegan options. Like even over the last, like my sister always loved vegetarian food, but over the last like year or so, I always eat vegan at their house, and I've been trying to encourage to see how much more often she can eat vegan also. And it's just kind of these little things, and I think I think that's also really great, for the world, because if we like just seclude ourselves to vegans, then it's just gonna there's no good, and not gonna be any new ones. Like we want more new vegans.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like so many of us underestimate the impact that we're already having just by existing as a vegan. Like,
Yeah,
because it makes people think like your family, right? Or like for me, my boyfriend's family is Chinese, and a lot of the time they're not eating vegan at all. But
Mhm.
but because I join them on like family lunches, they kind of have to think about like, oh, okay. And I
Yeah,
think like over time, eventually, like they're gonna change their minds. Like one of the past guests we had, her name is Sweet Simple Vegan. Well, that's her like brand, and she said after 5 years of her being a vegan and like a vegan blogger and everything, her mom actually turned vegan,
Mm-hmm.
and her dad turned vegan. And she's from, I'm going to get it wrong, but she's from like a Latin American country, and like they have like a very meat heavy cuisine as
Mm-hmm.
well. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow. So maybe, you know, because we go vegan and like 1 month later, we're like, why is everyone not vegan yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's kind of just like having patience, you know?
Another way to look at it is like a lot of people have asked me, and a lot of people like always bring up this conversation. It's like, um, how do I'm not making an impact. I'm one person. I'm not making an impact. And I'm like, yes, you are, because when I go to the grocery store, rather than spending $5 on meat, I spend $5 on a vegan option. That $5 doesn't go to that meat company anymore, and it goes to that vegan company now. And that vegan company has $5 more to create new products, to stock more shelves, to do whatever. And so now I'm growing. I'm growing that side, and I see that every day. Every time I go to the grocery store, there's something new that's vegan, and I'm like, this is amazing. And because like 2 years ago, there was very few options, and it's growing like crazy all the time. So that physical dollar impact is totally doing it also.
Nice. I love it. That's why vegans need to become rich so that we can take over the world.
Just buy more fruits and veggies. Problem solved. Fruits and veggies are cheaper, you know.
Yeah.
Grow that industry. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
What would you say to people who actually say that going vegan is expensive?
It can be if you eat out a lot, if you buy a lot of vegan options at the grocery store. But if you eat a lot of whole foods, like fruits and veggies, a lot of lentils, a lot of beans, all these kinds of things, you're fine. It's not that expensive. Tofu is the cheapest meat substitute in the world.
Mm.
It is, in relation to meat, it's like probably 10 times cheaper. So it can't be more expensive if you're careful about it. It can be if you go when you go out to a restaurant around downtown Toronto and you're like, oh, I just spent $26 on this meal. Whew. Yeah, it's expensive. But like there's also places I've gone downtown Toronto that are like $8 for a huge meal, and I'm like, I am so full, and it was $8. So
All right. Awesome. Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up. So if people want to find you and your podcast, where do they do that?
so you can head to theveganambition.com or to my Instagram page, The Vegan Ambition, or literally any podcasting platform, and it's called The Vegan Ambition. Yeah.
Okay, love it. So yeah, everyone, if you're watching, make sure to take a screenshot and tag at The Vegan Ambition and at value.vegan. And yeah, so we will see everyone later. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.